Hello everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery. Before I get started, I would love for you to subscribe down below. I'm sure if you follow this channel, there's always great videos going up from different people going through recovery by Rob, questions and answers. It's a great free resource for OCD recovery and learning how to actually bring yourself to full recovery. So today I wanted to talk about habits and balance. Now, I have done a video on this before, but I'm really going to go very in depth on about 6 or 7 different topics. Some of them overlap, which I kind of coincide with each other, but these are going to be really important on the road to recovery. So habits. So the science behind a habit is, in the beginning of a habit, when you're making a habit change, whether it's a physical habit change, a mental habit change, or anything like that, it takes a lot of self-control. And as the habits come into a place more, self-control kind of goes in the back burner and it turns into more of an automatic type thing. That's kind of, you can put that into the realm of almost disputing, to where in the beginning it takes a lot of self-control and you have to actually maybe do 15 minutes of disputing daily. And then overall, the disputing kind of comes more automatic towards you. You get in a situation, you might say, well, that doesn't even make sense. Or you actually just went through a situation and it is now just completely automatic and you just think to yourself, wow, I never thought that rationally before. So again, in the beginning of a habit, takes a lot more self-control and then it kind of switches over to an automatic process. And this is going to be a little different for people that don't have OCD compared to people who do have OCD, because we have a disorder. But that doesn't mean you can't have good habits in your life and create a healthy structure. So the first one I wanted to talk about, and for the first time ever, I wrote things down because I didn't want to lose track on this video specifically. I wanted to talk about sleep schedule. Now, I understand when you're suffering with OCD, and there's definitely certain fears too revolved around sleep, that sleep is going to be tough. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to sit in bed at night and say, oh my gosh, I need to sleep. I need to sleep. Part of, if you have sleep problems, which fortunately I never have, is accepting the fact that you may not sleep. That's just like accepting any of your fears and working towards not agreeing, but accepting. So you might maybe not sleep well for a month or 2 or 6 months or a year. And accepting that as best as you can, then giving yourself the compassion going throughout the day as if you're tired, because we are going through a very difficult, recovery process. It's not as easy as some people make it out to sleep. But one of the things you can try to implement is getting in bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time every morning. Something that happens is OCD sufferers will just lie in bed for hours and hours. Rob has talked about this, and I'm very big on this too. Unless you're much farther along in recovery, I do enjoy reading some of my research when I'm lying up in bed, but you more than likely don't want to go in bed unless you are sleeping or making love or something along the lines of that with your partner. But you want to, get out of bed and don't go back to bed until the end of the day. And this is going to be really hard for some people, especially if you've not been doing this for a while. So this is going to be not the easiest thing. Everything I talk about here is not going to be the easiest thing. But sleep schedules are really important. And we're not just talking about OCD recovery here. We're talking about general health and the circadian rhythm, the natural sleep cycle humans have. So this is something you want to be slightly conscious of when you're figuring out if you're completely suffering and you don't understand how to just adapt anything into a healthy structure. Trying to have a good sleep routine is good, but not trying to the point where, it's driving you insane, which will have a clean balance to it. Number 2 is exercise. Now, before I go any further with this, I know some people live in areas right now where you're still in lockdown. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do exercises around your house. You could do push-ups or knee push-ups or reverse pulls. So do pull-ups, but you're hanging from this way and you're pulling that way. You can curl books. There's ways to program resistance training, and there's different places to look if you don't understand exactly where to find those knowledge. But getting into an exercise structure is important. Now, again, I have to touch into the OCD aspect of all of this. A lot of people will run from their feelings and they'll say, I got to exercise all the time and make exercise now a compulsion. So it's finding that balance. For most of you watching, unless you're someone like me, you're probably going to be fine with 3 days a week of some sort of resistance training and then maybe some cardiovascular stuff. If you literally can't leave your house and you're in an area where lockdown is so good, turn on a timer and walk around your bedroom for 20 minutes or just walk back and forth. Some sort of cardiovascular activity. But getting in this habit is going to be really, really, really important for structure in your life. And we all know that cardiovascular resistance/strength training or power training has great benefits, a plethora of benefits for just endorphins, for bone health, for muscle, for building muscle, a lot of stuff. Stability, great stuff. Number 3, nutrition. Now, one of the biggest problems that I faced when I was going through the beginning stages of my recovery is I went from pretty shredded to 30% body fat. I gained like 40 pounds. I wasn't well, that's not true. I was eating way over my maintenance calories. I was eating out all the time. I wasn't cooking. Cooking itself and cutting food and like getting stuff ready is a small task that can give you almost a small sense of pride, because we always want to take a lot of us want to take the easy way out when we're going through recovery, and structuring a area of your life where you're actually cooking your own food, besides the benefits of knowing what's actually going into the food, instead of going to a restaurant and it being loaded with like vegetable oil and potentially 1,000+ extra calories from fat sources. You know exactly what's going in the meal. And it actually can teach you a little bit of patience, because we're so obsessed with, we want it now, we want certainty, we want instant gratification, which is something that society really deals with on a large scale anyway, but we are going to deal with even a bigger scale because of what we're going through. So that's really important. I recommend just trying to cook some of your own food, maybe not eating out as much. There's nothing wrong with going out with your friends, but if you find yourself, going out to eat or ordering food to go, if you're not from the country, like we have Grubhub and DoorDash where people pick your food up and drive it to you. That's one of my side jobs. And, it can become really, really unhealthy and almost become compulsive if you're eating compulsively to drown out feelings. Emotional eating is a big thing. So getting in a structure, you don't have to count your calories unless, we're not talking about me here. We're talking about the average person who just wants to be healthy and set up some good habits in their life. Reading. So reading can have a lot of great benefits. It can teach you stillness. It can teach you how to be in the present moment, practicing some mindfulness in those areas of concentration, but also understanding that if you're really suffering, you're probably not going to be that concentrated. Easier said than done, showing yourself some compassion. I know for myself, I was freaking out, like I need to be focused all the time. Like, why am I not focused? Freaking out, blah, 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 blah. And it really just was this unhealthy aspect of my life that just wasn't really working out too well. So, and again, reading the recovery. So we all know the reading list. We have How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable, Claire Week's Self-Help for Your Nerves, The Myth of Self-Esteem, Man's Search for Meaning, Paul David's That Last a Life, and Marcus Aurelius Meditations. So these books in those orders are very important to OCD recovery. I don't believe that you'll be able to grasp unconditional self-life, other acceptance, moving with uncertainty, understanding the anxiety, fear cycle without getting a good grasp of these books. Rob did a great post on this a few months ago talking about, reading the books multiple times over at points in your career. I'm rereading them again right now for like the 3rd time, some of the books, maybe 2nd. And doing it in a way where if I don't feel like reading, I don't read. But I'm at a point in my recovery where that's okay. But in the beginning, you have to learn these topics. So if you don't have good habits with sitting down and making a structured time to read, 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes at night or 30 in the morning and 30 at night, however you want to split it up. We're not talking 4 hours a day here. We all know people who have made that mistake right here. Overdoer, I was a perfectionist, got to read it all, got to get all the information, blah, 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 and stuff like that. So caffeine, so huge one. When you're going through OCD recovery and you have chronic anxiety and so forth, it would be okay to cut out coffee for the meantime. So I cut out coffee for probably 2 to 3 months, no pre-workout or anything like that. And that was a really good decision during my recovery. Gone for now doesn't mean gone forever. Ever since I started recovery, if most of you have seen my stuff, I was a severe video game addict, played at a highly competitive level for years, almost a decade. I don't play video games anymore. I might bring them back 2-3 years from now. Definitely not soon still. I've only been working on recovery for 9 months. And even though I don't think about them, they still could easily become compulsive. So, caffeine can become very compulsive for someone like me who has ADHD, who's more of a stimulant type of a person, go-getter. So I really have to dial that thing back. So, caffeine, regular black coffee has some great benefits. It's also a diuretic, but the fact is it also has some cognitive function research behind it. But you want to be balanced with it. Everything we're talking about here is balance. What do we like to do as OCD sufferers? We like to go, now. I want it all. It's all or nothing, blah, blah, blah. And Rob and I have really had to work through that, not being so black and white. So caffeine is talked about a lot. I see a lot of people say you can never drink caffeine again. Not true. I've been drinking, I have chronic anxiety still, and I drink coffee, and I'm a lot more balanced with it. It took me a lot of work, excuse me, to get to that point. This isn't so much a habit. It is my wife's suggestion, because I was going over the list and she said, we'll bring this in. And I said, well, I don't think it's really a habit. And then she explained it, because it wasn't a habit in the sense I was seeing it, but coping mechanisms. So we all tend to have, going through OCD recovery, most of us, unhealthy coping mechanisms, or using things in an unhealthy manner, which is now a habit, aka mental rumination, which has its own, you're not going to be able to bring that mental rumination down 100% until the fear comes down. And big misconception in OCD recovery, can't just automatically stop rumination. And some of these things are habits in themselves. Complaining is a habit. Negativity, the woe is me, my life is over, why is this me? Those are psychological and mental habits that you're going to have to try and work on throughout recovery. Remember, if you're saying to yourself, walking around all day, trying to force mindfulness, you're actually forcing an unhealthy habit, because the reality is nobody is mindful all day long. That's just one example on it right there. We're not monks. We don't live, I'm a business owner. I have to think about the future and my patients. And I don't have intrusive thoughts based around that, because if I'm not focused in the moment at the time, it doesn't bother me. But if you're forcefully thinking in a habit that you need to be focused, and you need to, I must, those musts and needs, I must be present, I must, that is actually a gigantic compulsion. And it's not talked about that much. Something to think about. So this also goes into the final part, which is, like I said, psychological habits, which all tie in. So these unhealthy psychological patterns that we have, complaining, judging people. These are habits. If you've been judging and you have been complaining for a long time, if you've been saying the woe is me, my life is terrible because I have OCD, getting underneath those beliefs with the tools from Albert Ellis is going to be huge. And this actually is how you're changing a mental habit. You're changing your brain structure, neuroplasticity. You're rewiring your brain in the simplest form. So that's going to be really important. There's other things I like to do. I didn't do them in the beginning. I don't really have any habits of meditation. I don't really use habits of gratitude too much. I've been using it a little bit more frequently lately, but in the beginning, we have to be conscious. So a lot of people, Paul David, my next video is going to be going really in depth in Paul David's book, which I think for me was the most helpful out of all 5 books. I've said that even after the first time reading it, besides like learning how to dispute, because I just saw very eye to eye with that. But, when you're trying to form a habit, but you're forming that habit to run, you're using mindfulness to escape anxiety. You're using meditation to escape anxiety. That's a slippery slope when you have OCD. We're not talking about Gen Pop here. When I say Gen Pop, I mean general population. We're talking about us. We're talking about OCD sufferers. We're talking about me. We're talking about you, whoever's watching this. We have a disorder. This is not inherently bad or good thing. It's just we have to approach it in a different manner. Just how someone who's 6'9" is going to approach dunking different than someone who's 5'3". Might be a little bit easier for them. It's the same concepts. We have to just accept what we have and move in the direction that we can. So these habits are really good. I also make my bed every morning. I think that's a good habit for me. I got that from a commencement speech by a Navy SEAL, which I love. And I really do find joy in making my bed every day. I walk my dogs 3 times a day. That's a great habit. Fortunately, I'm in a place where I can go to my gym and stuff like that. So that's really important. I count my macronutrients. I've been doing that for 12 years. 10 years, 10 to 11. So these are habits for me that, help. I weigh myself every single day for my goals with bodybuilding, but that's a little bit different, for the average population again. So you have to figure out habits that you want to instill in your life, and you have to look at the habits that you're having in your life that potentially could be detrimental. One habit I would like to mention is, if you're smoking weed all day, chances are, we do have a cannabinoid system in our brain, but if you're doing it to run and escape reality, it could potentially be problematic. Same thing, if you have a glass of wine here and there, that's completely fine. But if you're drinking 6 glasses of wine a day, it's potentially problematic. So especially, again, as an OCD sufferer, a lot of us will try to escape the sensations and feelings. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. This is really important to me. I like structure. I like habits. And I do want to end it on this. This is probably the most important point of this whole entire video. When you are structuring habits, or patterns or life structure or anything like that. You accepting that you might go off path is a huge part of the acceptance process. So I make daily lists. I have one of mine right here. I check things off, for what I do. So I already have my daily ones checked off. But if things don't get done, I used to get really anxious. Now I just accept them for what they were. I just sit with that anxiety and sit with that. Well, what if this happened? I just don't answer. I just sit with it and accept that maybe I might lose a patient. You know what I mean? Just for me, because as a business owner, being a chiropractor. So that is very important to realize when you're talking about habits and realizing self-compassion when you're not just going to form a habit that you haven't had in 20 years and it's just going to stick. You're going to backslide and go forward and backwards, just like OCD recovery. It's going to go all over the place. It's not going to go like this. It's going to go like that. That's how habits are formed. Some habits form easier than others, and some people are better at forming habits because of their willpower, their self-control in the beginning. But if you don't have that self-control looked at as a muscle in the beginning, that's okay. You can still work towards it. So thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe down below. Great stuff going up on this channel all the time, and have a great day.